Hello and a very warm welcome to Friday Live with me, Phil Crowshaw. And yeah, it's another Friday Live show, 3 p.m. Friday, the 3rd of September. I had to check then. It's a bit cliche, but it's one of those things, isn't it, where we kind of go, is it September already? But it does actually seem a bit strange that it is September already. So today I'm delighted to be joined by Asia Khan. And Asia's going to be talking to me about all sorts of things related to business and entrepreneurship. And Asia's one of these people that actually teaches this stuff. Not putting pressure on her or anything, but she actually teaches this stuff. I do it, but I suppose I do train it. But Asia actually teaches it. So I met her actually on a webinar that I was running, and I thought I was very impressed with the fact that she was very engaged with the webinar. She was clearly enthusiastic. So I said, if you fancy coming on the show, then please do. And what was very impressive as well is that she actually did what I always go on about. She actually turned the talk into action, and she took the action, and here she is today. So I'm going to play the intro, Asia, and then you can introduce yourself and tell everybody who you are. So here we go. Okay, so a very warm welcome to Friday Live with me, Phil Crowshaw. If you're watching this live, fantastic. Say hello, put any comments in underneath here, and just say hello or ask a question or make a comment, and I'm more than happy to share those with Asia and for the rest of everybody watching. You might be actually watching this on record, or the the non-live version on catch up. That's the word I was looking for. On catch up, which is quite normal because it's pretty unusual that people are going to be ready to just watch the live show at a particular time. So if you're watching it on catch up, no worries. Very nice to have you watching us, and I appreciate your time. I appreciate your time if you're watching this live, and I appreciate your time if you're actually watching this recorded, because at the end of the day, we're all very, very busy people, and time has become so precious. So it's great to have you watching, and thank you very much for joining us today. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce now my guest, Asia Khan, to the show. Asia, hello.
Hi, Phil. Thank you so much for having me. Absolute pleasure to be live on your show. So thank you for having me. Great to be here.
It's great to have you on, Asia. Really. In fact, we were chatting just before we came on about some of the areas we'll cover, and I'm thinking we need a 5-hour show for this. It's like, there's so much to talk about, so much to discuss around business and achievement and personal development.
It's just a never-ending topic, isn't it? There's just so much out there, so much happens, so much changes. So it becomes very easy just to talk about it.
It does. So I'll tell you what, tell us a little bit about yourself then, about your background and what it is you do.
Okay, so my background is I've got a 13 years background in teaching business. So that's all business subjects from marketing, management, HR, finance. So that's my background. In terms of teaching business, I've also started a part-time business in the commercial utility sector. So my business is called AJK Energy Solutions. And basically what I do, Phil, in a nutshell, I help save business owners the hassle of looking around, shopping around for a renewal or a contract. So I do that at no extra cost to them. So I look at the needs of their business, their usage, and so forth. I do all the pre-contract work for them, and then also monitor and look after their contract for that duration.
Wow, fantastic. And I think I said to you when we met, I was running a webinar, wasn't I? When we met, I think I said to you, any business that's saving people time is potentially onto a winner straight away because we're so busy.
Absolutely. And it's one of the last things that they think about right up until it comes for renewal. So what I tend to do is work with them 6 months before that contract is up for renewal. So that's when I can secure them the best rates for their business, really. So I'm transparent, they kept informed at every stage of that progression of that contract. And then, like I said, I do all the pre-contract work, and as long as they're happy, that they sign the contract and it's submitted. It's as easy as that.
Pre-contract work. I like that sound. I am renowned. It's well known. I'm quite well known in various agencies I work for not being particularly fond of bureaucracy. So again, anything that can save people filling in forms. I nearly posted this morning, actually. I feel like I've spent the last 3 weeks of my life filling in forms in various different guises recently.
And that's it, it's as well as, me doing that on their behalf, I'm also sourcing them the best deal for them. A lot of the times, Phil, the issue is that these businesses don't have any idea what the rates mean. So they could be on a higher night rate and they're not even using the business, but yet they've been accumulating all these charges. So again, I'm doing a review of their energy consumption and usage. And then with that in mind, I can then advise them and say, well, this actually fits the needs of your business, and hopefully I can save them money. So on average, it can be anywhere up to 40%. But anyway, that's the highest that that I could save them. But a saving's a saving, in the sort of times that we're operating in, so any kind of saving means they've got a higher profit margin. And again, the time that they save, they can utilize that on actually running their business and getting the best out of their people and the products and services that they provide.
That's right. And you obviously teach business management, entrepreneurship as well, which we can talk about today. And now you're doing your own thing. So I'm intrigued to know, because you were teaching this stuff, was there a part of you that's saying, well, I'm teaching it, I want to see if I can actually do it? Is that how it happened, or was it a completely different story?
No, there is some of that, because obviously I've had businesses over the past. So I used to have an events business when I did my master's in business management. So that was, I like new challenges. I also look at property investment as well. So this was something that I was quite keen to get into. But yes, there is some of that. I guess you become motivated and sort of driven to challenging yourself, seeing what you can actually achieve, and you can use real life relatable examples with your students to hopefully inspire and motivate them as well.
So have you got any idea where your enthusiasm and passion for learning, development, getting on in the world, making a difference, achieving success, achieving fulfillment in work, all those things, has it come from a family element, or are you completely unique in your family?
It's a combination, isn't it, of factors, and it's multifaceted. So in terms of what drives you as a person. So yes, my family, my father, he's always worked all his life, and that hard work ethic. I think you had Latif Badat on last week, and he mentioned that, and straight away as I was watching it, I was thinking, yep, that also sounds like my dad. So yeah, that obviously stays with you, that you have to work hard to achieve something in life. But in terms of what sort of drives me, and why do I want to excel? It's that intrinsic motivation, which you might think is a fancy word, in the business literature, but it's about how determined and how focused and how passionate you are as a person, and what you can actually achieve. When I teach business, I always introduce students to Locke and Latham's goal setting theory. And that theory has 5 sort of elements to it. And in just to summarize it, I'm not here teaching a business session.
No, it's good. It's interesting. I'm making a few notes at the same time. This is added value today for me as well. So
I'm glad I can do that for you, Phil.
Yeah, you can do that.
So really, in essence, Locke and Latham are saying that if goals are too easy, we're not actually going to be pushed in any way to achieve them. So there has to be that clarity. There's got to be the feedback element to goals. There has to be a level of complexity to goals, so it makes us work harder for these goals. So my need to achieve does come from being inspired by my family, my dad, and also this inner drive of this sense of achievement, and just seeing how far you can go, because if you never try, you'll never know. So it's putting your mind and your energy into something that you believe in and you're passionate about.
Yeah, I mean, this whole area of aspiration, I find absolutely fascinating. Actually, is where it comes from. And I mean, from my point of view, I was a career guy for a long time. I epitomized the career guy, going up the pole, the next promotion. Oh, I've got this promotion, right? I'm bored now. After usually about 18 months to 2 years was my threshold. And I had friends who were doing their own thing, and they used to say, "Why don't you do your own thing?" I said, "Oh no, I'm quite happy in where I'm at," and I enjoyed the security and the relative
safety aspect,
the safety, And then something happened in 2003 when I started doing my own thing, and I left the corporate world or my employed world behind. Something just changed in me, and all of a sudden, I was just desperate to control my own destiny. And that's what happened with me. Is that something you can relate to?
Certainly can. And also it's related to, if you look at research on what drives an entrepreneur and people that have entrepreneurial traits and characteristics, it's certainly that need of freedom. Is one that they don't want to conform and be conditioned, if you like, working for somebody else. There's always that little niggly thing that's driving them, that they can do more and they can achieve more. So, with that in mind, you're always looking for opportunities, and entrepreneurs by their very nature are risk takers. Okay, so why are entrepreneurs different from your average person? Because we take risks and we have an opportunistic mindset. So that's the Ernst & Young model, and their research looked at all these core competencies of an entrepreneur, such as drive, tenacity, being resilient, being proactive is another aspect to that. So it's wanting more, isn't it? That your self-worth. You come to a point where you think, I've got all these skills and experiences, and I could just use them now to actually do something for me. And I think that is where I'm at now. I've taught business for 13 years. So now I actually would like to make a difference to other businesses, starting with, the energy sector. Who knows? Sky's the limit. Who knows where I'll end up in 5 years?
Yeah, I think I mentioned a second ago about boredom threshold, and obviously we're all different, but I know from my own point of view, and I've said this before on this show, and I've said it lots of clients as well. Sometimes I know I leave what you might call leave money on the table, because I like to go and play in different sand pits, and that's where I get my fulfillment from. So, for example, I think I might have mentioned when I was doing the webinar, I may have mentioned it, and I've mentioned it on this show a couple of times. I'm in the process of, and it's virtually done now, I'm setting up a radio show Why? Because it's different, it's new, it's another angle of broadcast. Of course, you know, podcasts, live streams are all, but radio streams are another example, and you've got to learn it. And I think I'm a little bit addicted to the learning process as well. Does that sound familiar to you?
It does, and it comes under what we would say in business terms mastery and skills. So it's those skills that you gain. And if we look at someone like Lord Alan Sugar, he didn't just leap out of bed one day and decide he wanted to be a businessman. You know, he accumulated the knowledge, the experience, and you know what sort of spurred him into working for himself was that he wasn't getting that recognition. You know, so and he felt that, well, I can actually do all this for myself, and have a better sense of achievement. So it's those things, I guess, that can influence us and sort of drive us and keep us focused as well.
I must ask you this, because this fascinates me, is we live in an age of instant gratification. We live in an age of Amazon's here on the doorstep the same day if you're here in Manchester, where I am, in some cases. And obviously in entrepreneurship and those kind of small business startup type journeys are virtually never instant. They're a journey, you know. It says on here, I think life is a journey, and they're a journey. What's your view of working with the youngsters, and do they understand the importance and the necessity of an element of patience and grind and marathon? Or do they live sometimes in a bit of a, well, if I start this new app, I'll be Mark Zuckerberg a week on Tuesday? What's the mindset like?
Very much with what you've just said, where they think they've got an idea and that's it. You know, this idea is going to make them millions. You know, suddenly they're going to get all these financial backing, you know, and I tell them the story of, you know, Mark Zuckerberg and Uber, you know, the owner of Uber, and how he started. And then they're quite surprised. And I think sometimes the penny drops for them right at the end of their sort of program, and they're thinking, well, what's next? What do I do after this degree? Some of them know exactly they want to get into a career, but the ones that are, I guess, driven to set up a business, you know, you just know that, you know, they've got a lot to learn. They've a long way to go, because with any business, it is that persistence and not giving up. You know, because if you give up, then you know you're always just going to go back to doing what you're doing. So a lot of them don't have that maturity to understand and appreciate. So, you know, when I get guest lectures in, you know, they're quite baffled at times, you know, by the guest speakers that are telling them that this was quite a painstaking journey that we've been on, and it's not luck, and it's not just because, you know, you know, somebody helped us along. We had to get the help. It was I driving this business forward. And I don't think they can truly appreciate it. And you don't until you're actually running that business and, you know, you're seeing and learning it for yourself. That's
Yeah,
the biggest lesson.
yeah, that's absolutely. I assume that would be the case, and it was a big assumption. But I think you're probably the first person I've spoken to who's in a position to confirm or deny the perception that I might have had about that. But logic would say that would be the case.
Yes.
So if I ever do any talks to your students, they won't like me because I'll be obviously driving that across. A lot of the time, I call it the persistence test. And even with some of the stuff we talk about buying and selling and digital media and all that kind of thing, there's some average statistics, which is something like you have to have had a meaningful conversation or communication with somebody between 7 and 9 times, mainly business to business, obviously, between 7 and 9 times before they'll buy from you. Now, that might be less in the age of social media, possibly, but it's certainly not going to be, hi, my name's Phil. Do you want to buy my course? Oh, I've lost your audio, Asia.
Oh, I'm back now. Sorry,
That's it. Did you press your button?
I've pressed my button. Yeah. Um.
Right, try again.
Anyway, okay. So you're absolutely right. A lot of it is about persistence, and so it's like that saying, are you made of hard stuff? And how much does it take to break you? And I mean, failure is not a bad thing in business at all. You've only got to look at the likes of Simon Cowell and how he went bankrupt at one time and picked himself up, and off he went again, and very successful. I think it's a culture thing in Britain that we don't tend to back businesses that failed. The bank's not going to lend you money because you went bankrupt. In America, it's a whole different culture and a mindset. That doesn't really get held against you as such. They've just a different way of thinking, a different way of doing things compared to here. So we're quite conservative, I would say, and quite too cautious for our own good. And I think it's also your environment and the influences you have, as a young person or someone wanting to get into business, because we know statistics say that with an average of 5 people that we are in sort of regular social circles with. And it's interesting because, Caroline Dweck has got some really good research on growth mindsets. Okay. And her research suggests that, if you think you can do something, 9 times out of 10, you will. Okay. Because you're setting yourself up and you're gearing yourself up to do that. But it's very interesting when I ask young people, what is it you want after you've got this qualification? 9 times out of 10, they'll tell me what they don't want. So we've got a mindset issue straight away. I use Caroline Dweck's examples. There's really good, she's got excellent material out there, look her up. I've got some students that are not good with numbers, and, I'm teaching them finance. And once they get over that fear of, I don't think I'm good at this, and they actually have a go with an open mind, they generally find actually that wasn't as difficult as I thought. So they almost work themselves up and put these barriers themselves. It's that classic saying, isn't it? A bit cliche. You're your own worst critic, and you're your own worst enemy. And I find that a lot with some of the people that I come across, that confidence is such a big thing to personal achievement.
Belief and confidence, etc., which we'll come on to. Actually, I'd like to talk about that a bit more. Just before we do, when you were talking about goal setting and the various different elements of that, how important do you think relevance is in the goal setting process? Because I'm thinking about
massive
from a motivation point of view. Maybe, well, I've got this idea for this app for, let's say, I don't know, cooking, which I'm rubbish at, right? So you've got this application, this idea of, now, because I'm rubbish and not interested in cooking, I think there's a danger that I won't be as driven to drive through the hard times because it's not really relevant to my passion.
Yeah.
Is that true, or what's your thoughts?
I would say, if you're going to set up in business, you've got to have a passion or an expertise and an interest, a genuine interest in that business. Because if it's, it's what's driving you, there's Simon Sinek, your why. You need to have your why. And if you don't have that relevance, then you're kind of just, plugging along, not knowing what's going to happen and what is. And it's taking that proactive approach. Sorry, I feel like I'm just quoting you with all these research.
No, it's really useful. It gives people a reference.
Stephen Covey is another guy.
Yeah,
that
7 Habits.
Seven Habits. And again, he's one that I use a lot with students, right when we're setting targets for them. So Stephen Covey's got 7 habits of highly effective people. So number 1, being proactive. Okay, so things are only going to get done if you are proactive rather than reactive, because nothing's going to come to you, nothing's going to fall in your lap. You've got to work for it. Second one, which I find really interesting, is begin with the end in mind. So that almost flips it straight away, doesn't it? The visualization and vision, even in the leadership literature, vision is everything, as it is in the entrepreneurship research. Then the third habit is prioritizing. So you've got to decide what's urgent, what's not, what's a priority. So time management is a skill there. You've also got to have a win-win mindset. Okay, so you can't make decisions if there's not a win-win for both parties. It's got to work. There has to be that mutual agreement and sense of achievement for both people. Then you've got the fifth one, which is all about growth, and he calls it sharpen the saw. So that could be looking at growth for your resources, for your team, getting in some new pieces of kit for your actual business. If you're talking about you as the individual and growth, it could be investing in your own self. So it could be, well, I'll go and have a break and do a hobby, take up a hobby, something that I enjoy, that you can invest that time in yourself. The sixth one is synergy. So we've got to find people and to try and synergize with, if you like. So we need networks as well. That's very important in business. And then the last one is seek firstly to be understood, and then you can obviously understand. So it's about empathy. I might have said that the wrong way around, actually. Seek firstly to understand and then be understood. So you need to listen. Listening is a skill in itself. So which again is a habit of highly successful people. So I kind of put it on them. Well, which habits are you going to use and why? Which ones would help you? And then we revisit it when they're not achieving their targets and goals. Well, where do you think you've let yourself down? What could you be doing, to have achieved that particular goal? Why didn't you get that distinction that you wanted? Or why didn't your business achieve those sales figures? So, it's looking at cause and effect and finding where you're going wrong and fixing it rather than blaming. Caroline Dweck's research is about the growth mindset, not blaming other people and not having this fixed mindset where, oh, I can't do this, it's rubbish, it never happens to me. People have got it in for me. And it's all that blame culture. You can think of 1,000 excuses not to do something, can't we? And if it's fear that's sort of holding us back. So it's a whole combination of things that sort of come into play.
Yeah, it is. And it's interesting because you get to a point when because I've been a bit of a, I suppose you could say, a learning and development junkie over the years. As I said earlier, I love learning. And it's interesting you're talking about 7 Habits there. And I think I first read that, must be over 20 years ago, I think. I don't know how long it's been out, but it's been a while. And
It's
you
been
just
a while, yeah.
Yeah, and you're talking about those elements, though. And they're all as relevant now as they've ever been. Everything you
Absolutely.
just said there is already. Do you find that the students nowadays are, I'm generalizing massively, I guess, but they're more interested in what you might call internet related businesses or tech based businesses? Is that where they tend to go, or are a lot of them just interested in doing, I don't know, property business or or a manufacturing business, or is it more tech driven or a mixture?
I'd say it's a mixture. Certainly it's, what are they interested in? And I always say to them, what problem are you trying to resolve? How is it beneficial? And start off with market research. So there's an element of that in some of their business plans, that they have to justify and rationalize the gap. They can't just start a business just because they want to, or they feel that they'll be good at it. There has to be some hard facts behind that. You can be really skilled in something, Phil, but be terrible in business. So, for example, you
Yeah.
could make the best cakes there are, but really you don't have an idea on how to market them and, you know, where to go, how to promote them, how to build relationships. And these are what we call the soft skills, the interpersonal skills that also are very important, you know, in being able to relate to people, communicate to people, you know, get on people's wavelength, really understand them and see whether you could, you know, use your skills in a positive way to build lasting relationships.
Yeah, I mean, the relationships thing is massive, isn't it? Because
Oh, it's huge.
you know, the days of trying to sell, and I think the
Are
course I
long
was
gone.
running was
Yeah.
about sales, wasn't it? When
Yeah, it
and I was
was.
talking a lot about that. I'm not going to teach you the closing skill, because most of us can recognize a closing pitch, you know, straight away, and it switches us off, and we feel under pressure. And the minute we feel under pressure, we're out of there.
That's
So,
it.
I guess do you cover that whole area of EQ, emotional
Yeah.
intelligence? Is that something you
Daniel
cover in the
Goleman.
program?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
It's interesting how Daniel Goleman's research actually started. And again, he linked it to education initially. So he was looking at how can I inspire and encourage young people to achieve academically. So what is it that they're missing? So his model of emotional intelligence, you know, and he instilled it into a curriculum in America, I believe. And, you know, over the series of his research, he found that curriculums that embedded emotional intelligence components and some of his aspects of his theory, those students did far better than the students that didn't have it on their curriculum. And emotional intelligence, you know, you've either got it or you ain't. You know, that's my experience. But being aware of it and is something that you can actually, uh, I guess, practice in some aspects, or with each experience you can try and get better at, because it's not something that, you know, you've got. And people with a low emotional intelligence are the ones that make all the wrong decisions, you know, because they are thinking with their emotions as opposed to logic. And in business, you know, a good high emotional intelligence will serve you well, because you can
Absolutely.
step back, you can think about what's happened, and you can digest it, and then you can think about, you know, you can strategize a lot better. And the whole thing about you saying, Phil, about sales, it's a process, you know. So if you can get the process of your sales right, then there's no doubt in my mind why you won't be productive. You know, if you're doing everything possible and you're being proactive and you're doing some of Stephen Covey's 7 habits, and, you know, you're networking and you're doing all the right things, you know, the results will come in. And it's being patient as well with it, and persistence.
I've got a question here actually from a lady called Sabina, and she's saying that her 15-year-old daughter is really struggling with confidence, self-confidence. And have you any tips that she can use to try and help her build her confidence?
So when she says confidence, is that with communicating to people? Is it more sort of self-esteem? I don't believe I can do this. Um, and, you know, there's no one size that fits all. If it's something like she doesn't feel that she can achieve from an academic point of view, it's, you know, giving positive praise. You know, so I find giving positive praise to students really does lift them. It's, you know, inspiring them. So it's really looking at, it's peeling back the layers. Where is her confidence struggling? What is she struggling with? What's causing her to think? So it's like peeling back an onion, isn't it? There's different layers. So in order to pinpoint confidence, you know, because there could be different elements, you know, that she's struggling with. Is it communicating, meeting? And being 15 is a very tricky age as well. You know,
Yeah,
you're a
yeah.
young, you know, teenager. You've got hormones, you've got confidence issues. You're actually now thinking, I'm bothered about what people think about me. And it could be a phase even. Sabina, just keep an eye on your daughter and really communicate with her, and to see what is it that she's struggling with in terms of confidence. And obviously, as a parent, all you can do is encourage her, listen to her, support her, and try and do things that she enjoys, that she's good at, to raise her confidence.
Great. Got another one here, actually, from Jake. Lots of
Okay,
questions
hi,
here.
Jake.
Hi, Jake. Thanks for asking the question. And he's saying that his 17-year-old son is lacking direction. And he says that he's always trying to get him to decide what he wants to do with his life. But he seems to get nowhere fast. He says,
Is he a gamer? Is he on the games a lot? That's what I'd like to know, because
right.
yeah, that could
I'll
be.
see. We'll see if he
Yeah.
responds to that. Yeah.
17 is a tricky age. I didn't know what I wanted to do at 17. At 16, I was doing an apprenticeship at Training 2000 for electronic engineering. Just
gosh,
I
there
mean,
you
them
go.
days,
Then.
the MVQ days, and I kind of had this idea in my head: if I can learn and earn money, great. And then it sort of, the realization came when I'll never forget this lady called Dot, and I worked at Unilab near Training 2000. I don't know if you're familiar with Blackburn. But anyway, it's not so far from the Tesco in Blackburn.
Can I just interrupt? I'm very familiar with Training 2000.
Okay, you are.
And do you know why?
Why?
Because I did a speech at their opening event.
Did you?
Carry on.
So anyway, Dot, and I remember speaking to her. She was an elderly lady, and and I was about 16 at the time. And she said, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "What do you mean? What am I doing here?" "I'm doing an apprenticeship." And she said, "I've been here 30 years and I've done the same job day in, day out." That horrified me. And I thought, I can't be doing this for the rest of my life. I need a change. And then she said, you're a young girl. You need to get yourself an education. And I had been sort of umming and ahhing because my sister was off doing her A-levels. She wanted to be a lawyer. She knew what she wanted to be. And the pressure was on me. Well, what do you want to be? So I was kind of like, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, what do I enjoy? And I thought, well, I've enjoyed business at school. So I did one of them, what was it called? A GMVQ business. And I'm probably showing my age now. I did a GMVQ business advance and I absolutely loved it. I loved all the aspects of business. And yeah, then I went off to do my marketing and management BA honours at UCLan. Then I enjoyed that so much. I did a master's, MSc in business management. And then it never stopped really. Then I went off to do my PGCE, and I've done various things in my 13 years. I did actually start a doctorate in education, but because of lockdown, I've kind of put that on hold just because I don't like online learning myself. I feel I couldn't carry out my research, and my research really was investigating the use of smart technology. So really, mobile phones, are they a help or a hindrance to learning, but at a higher education setting? So that was what I wanted to research about, but hopefully I'll pick that up at some point. But
yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? I mean, I listen, if we're talking age, I can double trump you, triple trump you every single day of the week, Asia. So yeah, when I first got into learning, when I was a manager in Thomas Cook, the travel company, and it was tapes in those days. It was and you were driving around and you had cassette tapes.
I remember those.
Well, that's something, I suppose. Thought you were going to say,
discs.
what's this? Oh, well, we're all right. God, you don't look that old, I have to tell you.
I get that a lot. I've just got a good skincare routine.
Well, absolutely, or a very good filter on this program.
There's no filter.
Well, all I can say is, that's your next entrepreneurial.
I'll take it as a compliment.
Well, take it as a compliment. It's meant to be.
Thank you.
Not that guys can give compliments anymore with the politically correct world we live in. You always got to be very, very careful, haven't you? Especially on a live stream in public. But yeah, you don't look You don't look, to be honest, you don't look a day over 65 to me. That's
I'll take that.
good. We digress. So let's used to listen to tapes, and then of course it became CDs,
Yeah.
and then over time it became. But one of the things I've noticed is when I used to buy and books. God, I've got so many books. I mean, flipping it. Funnily enough, in my office here, I've got so many books. That's the first one I've pulled out of about 5 million. I've got so many. But what I've noticed is that since Kindles and Audibles and all the rest of it, I've probably got about 60 books, Kindles that I've never even looked at, never even opened.
Wow, that's interesting.
It
and
is.
I think
And
with books, it's more, I like the whole thing of it's tangible and I can sort of hold it and flip the page over. I can't say that I've ever read a book on Kindle, only because of my preference. And, you know, if you see my teaching office, I've got probably 3 bookshelves, and, you know, all of them are on business. And there's nothing like holding a book and reading it. And I don't know if that's just because we're like, I'm thinking old school, but yeah, I mean, technology is great. And I feel technology is an enhancement. You know, it shouldn't be the ultimate way of we engage learners in teaching. You know, so that's how we use it in the education sense. But in the business sense, it's very innovative, isn't it? So if you look at, you know, Dyson Hoovers, it's all technology driven, isn't it? You know, and even our smartphones, you know, they're all drivers of technology and innovation. So innovation is absolutely fundamental in business, because we wouldn't have growth. You know, we wouldn't have things like e-commerce that we do. We wouldn't have this now, you know, doing our live broadcast. So technology is great. But obviously in education, there's still this whole thing about, does it help, does it not? But the danger of smartphones is the addiction. So we are a nation that are addicted to smartphones. And if you've got them, you know, we're on them. There's all sorts of things you can do. You can look at your screen time. How long have you been on there? And, you know, it sort of activates this part of your brain where as soon as you get an alert, you're automatically subconsciously distracted. If your phone pinged now, you'd be wondering, who is that? And so,
I totally get it, and I don't think anybody watching, listening to this would think any different. The only issue I see or think about that is it Pandora's box and it's already open? I mean, how do you reverse it? You know, it's a bit like, and we could have a whole new debate about the worries of climate change. That's a whole different gig.
I don't think we can reverse it. I think it's more managing it, because when I've looked at research, so there was a Scottish high school or a college, one or the other, they'd actually banned the use of mobile phones, and students had to have them in lockers. So they could only get access at break times. What they did find was that the engagement, the academic achievement was far better because they were less distracted. So it's a whole balancing act. There's a place for using tablets. You know, we have laptops and iPads for students to research on, and they're excellent. You know, it's instant information. We live in a world of where everything is just so instant. You know, everything's just there. And how we communicate has changed massively. So we have to engage with it, but in the right way. I think that's really fundamental and crucial, because too much of something isn't good. Whether it's food, using your phone, too much of something isn't good. But, you know, the phones are creating this attachment. So as a phone user, and what we're seeing now is kids young as, you know, 6, 7 are getting mobile phones, and that's really dangerous territory.
Yeah, that's an interesting one in itself. Definitely, they're younger and younger, and I think what happens is if they've got siblings who are 12, 13, and they see that, they see the sibling with one and they see them having fun with it or whatever, they really feel like they're missing out. And it's an issue for society, just like climate change is a massive issue for society. I think our relationship with our gadgets is another massive issue that we've got to work through and try and figure out. But I just don't think there's any easy answers.
There isn't. And I think in academia, it's about trying to sort of balance the use of it. So use technology as an enhancer. So it enhances our teaching and learning, and students are able to access information and research. But, where you've got too much of a reliance on technology, and it's influencing these addictive type behaviors. So with the question that we had from Jake, which is why I asked, is your son playing his gadgets, is he into his gaming? I'm not sure if he's responded back.
He
or
has
not.
actually, yes, he has. He is a gamer.
Yeah,
Xbox,
a lot.
He says he's even gone specific on Xbox.
Yeah. And too often we do see, I mean, I get it a lot with the students that I teach, they almost get this false sense of perception. And what I mean by that is that if they fail on their report or assessment, let's say they failed on it, they've got this so what attitude. I'll just have another go again. So it's almost like in the gaming context, they get killed or they lose a life, we'll have another go. And that's almost setting up this dangerous sort of precedent of not reality, because out there in the real world, your employer might not give you another go. You might just get shown the door.
That's fascinating. That's the first time I've ever heard that. But I can understand why that having
there is
son myself
research.
Who's 11, I'm getting that totally. And God, what an amazing insight that is.
Yeah, and and also when the fees went up, when all the university fees suddenly jumped from about 3,000 to 9,000-10,000.
Yeah.
Naturally we knew there was going to be an upward trend of high expectations from students, although some students don't actually fund that money themselves, and they obviously get it through student loans, but nonetheless their expectations went through the roof. It was almost like, I'm paying you X amount of money, what am I getting in return? And we have to manage expectations, because it doesn't matter where you're studying and what you're paying, your access to education and the support is absolutely, we can't do anything 20 times better than we're doing already. But it is about managing expectations. And going back to Jake, and obviously the question before, how are you managing the expectations for your child? What is it that you could be doing to sort of, and COVID hasn't helped, the lockdown hasn't helped at all, where there's been a real surge. I was actually thinking, Phil, before lockdown, to buy shares in Netflix.
Yeah.
I should have done.
I bet you wish you had. You wouldn't be talking to me now. You'd be driving your Ferrari up the M65.
I'd have had my Lamborghini. Joke, I don't even like Lamborghinis. I'm happy with my Mercedes for now. But I honestly thought that, I can just see this happening now. And yet the shares prices did hike and did increase, but I think it's a combination of things, and we can't be too hard on young people. And I think if we're constantly demanding and expecting them, naturally there's a resistance that builds up, and they're not going to want to do it. So you need to just give them space and just be there for them, and maybe let them find their own way. And so what if he doesn't know what he wants to do right now? Neither did I. I had to do an apprenticeship to find my way. It's never too late, and it's never the end of the world. There's nothing that bad, I guess there's nothing that tragic in that sense. Is they're young, they want to find their way. Just be there for them and try and encourage them as best as you can.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And I know one of my bugbears is all in related to all that. And I I do. I'm very conscious of the fact I sound like a moaning old goat more and more every year passes. But one of the things that I am very conscious of at the moment is what I call entitlement, which is the same kind of thing that you're talking about.
Self-entitlement, yeah.
There is definitely an issue on entitlement. I want the best education. If the Amazon is supposed to come before 12 and it comes before 1, I'm angry. You know, if I want the best education, I mean, obviously with the last 2 years of everything that's happened with the healthcare system, you know, my wife's a practice manager in a doctor's practice, and she's very familiar with entitlement. You know, it's kind of almost like I want him to drop everything. I want the doctor at my house in 4 minutes flat, or else I'm not going to pay me taxes anymore, and all the rest of it that goes with it. So I do think we're struggling a bit with entitlement in many areas of life. And the truth is, you mentioned the word prioritize earlier on in the habits. As a country, we have to just figure out what's more important, because you can't have everything.
No, and you're absolutely right. I mean, if we look at self-entitlement, where does it come from? What's driving it? Is it because people are just fed up, and the NHS budgets are obviously what they are, and there isn't the resources aren't there, and there's not that quick turnaround? So are people just getting fed up to that point where, you know, unfortunately, you know, your wife is on the receiving end of that, and you know the doctor's going to get an earful, and it's hard to balance it. So priorities, absolutely, you know, and you're never going to please everyone. And I know that was mentioned last week as well, and you can't.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You got that. You were listening after all.
I'm very attentive, you know. I was multitasking at the time as well, but you know, it stuck with me. But yeah, thank you. Self-entitlement. So it's, you know, it's a minefield. You know, I think psychologists could probably answer that better than me. But I can only sort of comment on my experience of, you know, self-entitlement. But it's the whole system, and pressure. I think pressure really affects us all in different ways. So, you know, some people have that view that, well, you know, why can't I have X, Y, Z, and why isn't it? And they don't understand that. But you know, we have to work together. You know, we're all in the same boat. We've got to help each other.
Yeah, I think we're just in a society now which feels as if it's more about me, me, me. I mean, even if you look at something as the way that, say, something like Instagram has exploded.
Social media, yeah.
You know, particular Instagram or TikTok, if you look at it, a lot of the posts is about me, me, me. Even if it's, here's me on holiday, here's me up a hill, here's me eating my sandwich, it's still about me, 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 me. But I might say that because I'm older. I mean, obviously I've been in and around social media a lot because of the work I do. But having said that, it's just, you know,
you're absolutely right, Phil.
And there's a lot of stuff which is about, this is me, this is me, this is me, take notice, give me attention.
There's almost that narcissistic element to it, isn't it?
That's the right word.
I mean, we're all narcissists in some way or another, but there's the extreme narcissists, and there's obviously this whole thing of wanting acceptance of other people. And there's this whole thing about it makes me feel good, that I look good. And the filters, it's funny you mentioned filters, because obviously a lot of people use filters because they don't like that version of themselves, and it's almost creating this false identity, if you like, that you know, and I don't really, you know, condone filters. You know, I think just be you, be real. Because we're not living in this perfect world. And I think social media, along with the pressure from society that we have to look a certain way, we've got to behave a certain way, it's all these expectations that, you know, some people obviously don't know how to deal with them, or they choose to react to them in that manner.
Yeah, I mean, I see it for myself. I see it in my daughter. My daughter's 14. And I see it in my daughter, you know, and you you know, always you can just tell it's an issue that what they look like, and you're trying desperately to you come out with all the cliches and you hear yourself saying it, but it's kind of you know, it's that whole thing about it is what it is. You can't
Image,
worry
yeah,
about you
yeah.
can't worry about that. Just concentrate on your strengths, you know. And I, you know, as an individual, I've always, fortunately, I've always been cool with that. You know, I'm a shorty. I'm only 5'5", so I'm a shorty, and I've got a bald head. But it really doesn't bother me because it is what it is. You know, and
I
and
think
and I've got
young
other
people,
strengths. You know,
yeah, I think young people are so exposed to you know, people they look up to. So celebrities,
mm,
for example, you
mm,
know, these people have got, you know, quite high profiles. You know, they've got big followings on Instagram, on TikTok, and so young people are almost aspiring in some ways to behave like them or to look a certain way. So Kim Kardashian's had you know, some sort of a facial, so I need to jump on that. And you know, and
mm.
she's wearing, this is the color. So it's all driven and sort of fed through social media, and you know, because that information is accessible more now, it's accessible, isn't it, on a wide scale, that news just travels faster and it becomes almost the norm, if you like. People are normalizing posing for selfies, and it's okay, and nobody's going to look at you and frown. You know, people are expecting now, they've got this mindset when they look at the stories. I mean, I've got Snapchat, and I don't post much on it other than I think my last one was probably when I went to my London break and just some nice, you know, scenery and sights and so on. I've got TikTok and I don't ever post TikTok. I watch it for entertainment, and I'll be
Go
honest, because
down
of
the
TikTok, because of TikTok, I was able to dine at all these fancy places in London because people had put in reviews. So I thought, okay, this is a great feedback, you know, postal, if you like. And so I'm going to try these places. And I would have never known there was a Moroccan hammam in Edgware. That's where I went and I had this hammam. It was amazing, really authentic. But I'd have never known if it wasn't for. So there's benefits to it, and yet there's obviously negatives to it. And it's what you take as the individual, isn't it, that matters.
yeah, and like I say, like we were saying before, it is what it is. It's not disappearing anytime soon. So you can judge it all you like, and it is tends to be true. It's difficult more with teenagers and what have you. There's another debate there, but you know, it's like when people complain about things on TV. There's an off button, and I've never got that. You know, it's like whoever, it doesn't matter who it is. Oh, Piers Morgan's kicking, saying this, he's absolutely out of order. Oh, it's Piers Morgan, off, switch channel. There's a lot of people complain about stuff they're watching that they don't need to be watching. Anyway, that's another whole debate. Listen, I could talk to you forever. There's so much, and we've only just touched the surface of life and the universe, and we've not fixed very much so far, Asia.
No.
So, but I'm going to say I'm going to close it there because we've been on an hour, which is about the time I tend to do. Sometimes some people can only talk for 35 minutes, but I had a feeling we'd be okay for a good hour. Just call it instinct.
No comment.
You did say before we came on you talk for a living, and I said, well, so do I. So basically we were in big trouble straight away.
We are.
Do you know, I've really enjoyed that, Asia. Seriously, I'm not just saying
Phil.
it. Really interesting. Must have you on again because there's so many more things
Absolute pleasure to
we
come
can
on
discuss
again.
and talk about. So thanks very much for coming up, and thanks for taking the action. Thanks for overcoming any uncertainties or phobias that might have been floating around. You're on live. You've done a great job. You come across really, really well, and you're a great shining example to people of do it anyway. You know, feel the fear, do it
Just do it.
anyway.
Yeah.
Just do
You're
it.
only here once, and you know,
Yeah.
if you don't know, you're never gonna find out, are you? So you've just got to take that plunge, that leap of faith.
Absolutely agree. And for anybody that's watching that's got a business that has thought, you know what, I'm paying a bit too much for my energy at the moment, then this is the lady you need to speak to. So connect with her on LinkedIn, and she can help you. And who knows, you may end up being able to keep a couple more staff when furlough ends, because you've saved some money on your energy bills, and then you'll be saving staff and making their Christmas because you've not had to let them go, which is a whole another debate about when furlough ends, but we won't go into that now. So thanks, Asia. Really appreciate your time. And thanks for joining me and Asia on this Friday Live. We'll catch you again, not next week because I'm away on holiday, but the week after we'll be back on. I think we've got another guest on with an international flavor in 2 weeks' time from good old America again. And another great example, as Asia was saying, about technology. Not only can we do now live streams, which would have been unheard of not that long ago. It was the arena that the BBC, ITV, and Sky tended to adopt. But nowadays we can do this, and not only that, but I can interview people and have people on the show from anywhere in the world, which is kind of just amazing, really, and that leads us open to all sorts of possibilities and opportunities. So thanks very much, Asia. All the very, very best. I'm sure I'll be speaking to you again in the not too distant future. And
enjoy your holiday, Phil. Thank you for having me. Pleasure.
No worries. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
See you all soon. Bye-bye.